At precisely 3:41 p.m. on the 7th of February 2026, Meghan Markle, cloaked in a custom ivory cape coat and oversized sunglasses, approached the legendary Chanel flagship on North Rodeo Drive with the poise of someone used to doors parting silently for her. What she anticipated was discretion, reverence, a smooth glide straight into a private suite, luxury's expected ritual. What she walked into instead was a spectacle that would send shockwaves through the fashion world. 2 security guards, planted like statues, unmoving, immovable, their silent posture a wall of unspoken defiance between her and those iconic double C doors. No manager materialized, no polite explanations. One guard's clipped words cut the air. "We've been instructed not to accommodate you." For a woman once celebrated as fashion's next humanitarian muse, the moment was jaw-dropping, almost surreal. Yet, make no mistake, this wasn't confusion. It wasn't a clerical error, and it certainly wasn't a casual oversight. It was the culmination of a calculated global decree finalized weeks earlier at Chanel's Rue Cabanne headquarters in Paris. Inside the corridors of high fashion, insiders whispered of the move as the nuclear option, rarely spoken of but devastatingly final. Chanel's decision was surgical. Meghan Markle had been blacklisted. Worldwide, every boutique, showroom, fashion gala and brand event, cut off. No appointments, no discreet product previews, not even a courtesy gift made it past the blacklist. This was no mere exclusion, it was an erasure, the kind that echoes through private boardrooms and whispered industry meetings alike. Witnesses say Meghan froze mid-text, her hand hovering over her phone, a frozen moment that seemed to stretch for eternity. Not a word escaped her lips. Then came the unraveling. From the entrance of Dior across the street, a staffer observed Meghan make a single, urgent call to Prince Harry. She paced like a wind-up toy, muttering to herself, "They'll be fired. I swear they'll be fired. No one humiliates me like this." Her voice was low, tense, electric with anger. Within 20 minutes, Harry arrived, hood pulled low, pale-faced, jaw tight with contained frustration. A brief exchange with the head of security, a single nod, a firm shake of the head. No exceptions, no compromises. Harry didn't argue. He turned to Meghan, his tone flat but heavy. "Let's go, please." She didn't move immediately. 12 minutes later, enough time for 3 viral clips to hit social media, including one where Meghan pointed at the boutique, mouthing the words, "You don't know who I am." Chanel didn't respond to media queries, and they never do when silence itself is the message. One industry veteran explained it plainly. When Chanel goes quiet, that's the statement. Loud, clear, and final. Confidential internal documents reviewed by our newsroom reveal the rare blacklisting protocol, internally called retreat, definitive final withdrawal, is only invoked in the most extreme circumstances. Reserved for individuals who violate brand ethics, betray intellectual trust, or repeatedly ignite public controversy. Meghan? She checked every box. Sources confirm the formal motion for retro-definitive blacklisting was signed in December 2025 by Bruno Pavlovsky, Chanel's president of fashion, alongside François Montet, former chairwoman of the supervisory board and senior advisor to the Weimer family. Behind the scenes, Chanel's brand integrity unit compiled an exhaustive dossier. Leaked emails from Meghan demanding co-creative credit for a limited edition handbag capsule in 2023, plus testimonies from 4 former staffers painting her as manipulative, condescending, and obsessively controlling of her public narrative. The fracture that led to February 2026's showdown actually began 14 months earlier. On December 5, 2024, Meghan visited a private Chanel atelier in Paris, unofficially invited through an American stylist friend. She allegedly introduced herself as a creative partner from the RQL initiative, insisting on reviewing sketches from the MET 2025 line. She wasn't just asking questions, she was issuing directives. Staffers report she demanded trims be renamed after her suggestions, proposed removing what she deemed French stiffness, and even hinted at wanting the same level of control Karl Lagerfeld once wielded. One archivist said the room turned instantly cold. She misunderstood everything, recalled a Chanel archivist. Chanel isn't an incubator for self-promotion. It's a house, a temple. Temples don't worship outsiders. Days later, her name was removed from the Métiers d'Art show guest list in Manchester. Chanel's blacklist had just begun, and its shockwaves radiated far beyond Beverly Hills. Dior, Balmain, and Bottega Veneta all received internal memos flagging Meghan as a Tier 3 brand risk, a designation so rare it raises eyebrows across Europe's fashion elite. A senior PR strategist at LVMH, speaking on condition of anonymity, said Meghan is disruptive. Not the kind that sparks creativity, the kind that triggers litigation. The public fallout in February 2026 was just the visible tip of a deeper rift, one that began quietly in spring 2023. Inside fashion circles, the early tension was known as the Mood Board War, a standoff over the proposed OWL X Chanel capsule that never came to life. What began as exploratory collaboration escalated into an institutional clash. A meticulously guarded fashion house versus a determined outsider aiming to rewrite its DNA under her personal story. By May 2023, Meghan and her business advisor, Vanessa Lorenz, contacted Chanel's US press office via third-party agent Zara Carmichael, a former Goop publicist. Their pitch, a limited-edition humanitarian line merging Coco Chanel's legacy with Meghan's modern female empowerment branding. Bold, ambitious, controversial. Chanel, methodical and deliberate, wasn't convinced, and the groundwork for future conflict was firmly laid. From that moment onward, what was once potential collaboration devolved into a prolonged chess game, with every move scrutinized, every public statement and Instagram post analysed for risk. High-profile insiders describe it as a slow-burn reputational siege, where Chanel and its network of European fashion houses quietly aligned to protect their creative sanctity. Meghan's public persona as a humanitarian-style icon collided violently with the precise, almost ritualised world of haute couture, and the result was inevitable. And so, what started as conversation in early 2023 spiraled into global controversy by February 2026, proving that in the world of high fashion, influence is fragile, reputation is currency, and one misstep, or one perceived overreach, can erase even the most luminous star. From conversation to controversy, Meghan Markle's attempt to blend humanitarian branding with haute couture legacy had ignited a chain reaction that shook not just Chanel, but the entire fashion elite. And the pitch that began it all, the proposed limited edition line blending Coco Chanel's legacy with Meghan's modern female empowerment branding, remains a symbol of what could have been, and what ultimately sparked one of the most high-profile fashion standoffs in recent memory. On the 14th of June, 2023, a meeting that would later become infamous in fashion circles was set in New York City. Chanel's US brand relations head was scheduled to sit down with Meghan Markle and her team, a seemingly routine encounter that quickly spiraled into a masterclass in audacious ambition. Internal notes obtained from a leaked PR server described the initial approach as aggressive, presumptuous, and shockingly dismissive of Chanel's meticulously structured brand hierarchy. Despite all the red flags, Meghan had prepared to make her move. Multiple attendees recall Meghan arriving with a glossy presentation boldly titled Reimagine Chanel, from exclusivity to empathy. Her proposal, insiders say, included replacing the interlocking double C logo with a subtle ROL floral motif for a line of silk accessories. The plan didn't stop there. She envisioned launching the campaign with real women instead of traditional runway models, with herself front and centre as both face and voice of the line. There was also a line of eco-conscious handbags named after royal women, including a strikingly bold Diana piece. When Chanel's team asked whether she had formal approval to reference Princess Diana's name, Meghan allegedly shrugged and said, "I carry her legacy. I don't need a license to honour it." Within days, a mood board purportedly developed by Meghan's creative team leaked online. Archive photos of Princess Diana in Chanel suites were overlaid with black and white images of Meghan in similar outfits, and a slide titled From Grief to Glamour, the heirloom line, was included. According to a source inside Chanel's paralegal office, the leak immediately triggered an internal ethics alert. The issue wasn't merely the aesthetics, it was the suggestion that Chanel's heritage could be wielded to rewrite someone else's legacy. That, insiders said, crossed a line from inspiration into appropriation. Chanel's leadership convened an emergency meeting on June 26, 2023. By July 1st, all communications with Meghan's team at Archewell were cut. A no-engagement directive went out to all regional teams. The project was quietly dead, but not cleanly. Emails obtained through anonymous leaks suggest Meghan didn't take the rejection well. One read, "They used me for press, then shut the door, but I'll outgrow them. I always do." By late 2024, Meghan began dropping references to Chanel from interviews and public appearances. No more name-dropping, no subtle nods, no Chanel-inspired outfits. Instead, she gravitated toward Valentino, Carolina Herrera, and Self-Portrait, brands perceived as more receptive to celebrity influence. A former stylist who briefly worked on Meghan's Netflix wardrobe said the shift ran deeper than public appearances. She was obsessed with proving she didn't need Chanel, yet every time she wore a French brand, she questioned herself, "Does this feel Parisian enough to make my point?" It became a battle between personal brand identity and institutional branding, an invisible tug-of-war that insiders say defined her public image during this period. Fashion observers argue the fallout between Meghan and Chanel epitomizes the broader tension between institutional brands and celebrity brand builders. Houses like Chanel, Hermès, and Rolex trade in silence, legacy, and meticulous control. Meghan's team, in contrast, operates with rapid-fire cycles, viral exposure, cause-driven buzz, and modern branding velocity. A French fashion executive put it bluntly, "Meghan didn't understand. Chanel isn't here to evolve through her. In Paris, that matters more than she could ever imagine." The events of February 7th, 2026, known internally as the 12 Minutes of Silence, were a culmination of this multi-year clash. That warm Los Angeles afternoon, North Rodeo Drive's usual mix of luxury and hushed attention was suddenly disrupted. Meghan, flanked by her assistant Greta Yu and stylist in training Eliza Morrow, exited a black Cadillac Escalade and walked toward the Chanel Beverly Hills flagship. She expected familiarity. What awaited her was something entirely foreign, a corporate lockdown in plain view, a wall of discipline and silent power. The silence that followed lasted 12 extraordinary minutes, captured by bystanders, whispered about by insiders, and now revealed in full detail. According to time-stamped security logs from the store, Meghan arrived at exactly 15:41:12. Two veteran Chanel security staff, Miguel R. and Sophie L., stepped forward in perfect unison. Sophie, positioned at the doors, delivered the rehearsed line. "I'm sorry, madam. We've been instructed not to facilitate access." There was no confrontation, no shouting. Meghan blinked once and replied flatly, "I have a standing arrangement with your global director. Check again." Miguel's expression remained unreadable. "No open arrangements in our system," he said. "This applies across regions." That phrase, "across regions," was deliberate. It signaled that this was not a local hiccup. It was a global directive. For the first 60 seconds, Meghan remained composed. Then, at 15:43:09, she pulled out her phone and began pacing just beyond the black velvet rope, reportedly on a live call with Prince Harry at their Montecito residence. Eyewitnesses said she was saying things like, "They'll regret this. Get Bruno on the phone." It was loud, deliberate, and performative, a signal to the world that she would not be ignored. Inside Chanel, employees watched from concealed security feeds. One anonymous staffer recalled the atmosphere as tense, yet rehearsed. "We were told very clearly last week, if she comes in, do not engage, do not escalate, do not photograph, just hold the line." The guidance had come from Chanel America's division vice president in an internal memo dated February 1st, 2026, listing Meghan as a Tier 1, non-engaged individual per Paris. No ambiguity, persona non grata, not just locally, but globally. By 15:47, Meghan had shifted tactics. Witnesses say she began narrating into her phone, alternating between calm and performative anger, gesturing toward the entrance. This is how they treat women who speak up. They want silence, not creativity. The footage, insiders say, was sent immediately to her PR strategist Andrea Fielding with the subject line, "Use this if we go nuclear." Then came the most startling moment. According to stylist Eliza Morrow, under anonymity, Meghan openly named a Chanel regional director in front of passers-by, accusing him of corporate bullying and ethical cowardice. She wanted the world to hear, to witness. Chanel remained unmoved. At 15:53:21, Prince Harry arrived, unshaven, baseball cap pulled low, jacket unzipped. Witnesses described him as a man walking into a storm, exhausted yet resolute. He approached Meghan, gently touched her elbow, and said 5 words, "We need to go now." She pulled away briefly, then relented. They left quietly. The store doors never opened that day. By 21:12, an internal Chanel Slack message circulated to senior client managers worldwide. If asked, refer to standard client protocols. Do not comment externally. Our position remains unchanged. Behind the scenes, other luxury houses watched closely. By the next morning, Dior and Balenciaga quietly instructed their boutiques to reconfirm internal access tiers. Essentially, check whether Meghan was welcome, and if so, remove her. What makes those 12 minutes haunting is not confrontation, but silence. No official statement, no apology, no justification. In haute couture, where diplomacy is woven into every seam, this was not simply a public incident. It was a public excommunication. The doors did not slam. They stayed closed with conviction, the hush of legacy, and the weight of centuries-old discretion. Across Parisian haute couture, the corridors glitter with secrecy and tradition. But when those doors turn, the silence is deafening, and Meghan Markle would feel it for years to come. In the weeks following Meghan Markle's high-profile rejection at Chanel's Beverly Hills boutique, a quiet but meticulously orchestrated distancing swept through France's most powerful fashion institutions. From the historic salons along Rue du Faubourg Saint-Ré to the marble-lined offices overlooking Place Vendôme, decision-makers were unanimous. Meghan Markle was no longer welcome in Paris. Once a name that opened doors, now it was a red flag. Once your name disappears from the call sheets in this city, the signal is permanent, irreversible. Exclusive intelligence obtained from a senior fashion insider reveals that on February 9, 2026, a private roundtable convened under the aegis of Comte Colbert, the elite association representing France's most prestigious luxury houses. In attendance were representatives from LVMH, owners of Dior, Louis Vuitton and Givenchy, the Caring Group, overseeing Balenciaga and Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, Chanel, still privately held by the Heimer family, Hermès, and advisory members from Celine. No minutes were officially released, but a leaked summary paints a stark picture. Until further notice, Meghan Markle is to be removed from all guest lists, showroom access logs, press kit distributions, and influencer collaborations. The language was surgical, cold, and calculated. Chanel had acted first and most visibly, but other houses wasted no time reinforcing the boundary. Dior, once rumoured to have considered Meghan as a brand ambassador, quietly instructed their teams to refrain from sending garments or engaging talent managers on her behalf. Givenchy, where Meghan famously wore her iconic wedding gown in 2018 under the late Claire Waite-Keller, declined public comment. A source close to the current creative team confirmed, "We're focusing on emerging voices, not recurring controversies." Balmain went further. A planned digital campaign, featuring an interview between creative director Olivier Rousteing and Meghan, was scrapped just days before filming. "Every conversation becomes about her, not the clothes," an executive admitted. Even Jacquemus, known for embracing celebrity modernity, reportedly issued a firm no. Behind every front-row seat at Fashion Week lies a network of publicists, agents, and stylists who determine who gets dressed, seated, and photographed. Meghan's name, once a coveted asset, had become a red-flagged inquiry. A top European stylist who had worked with Meghan on her 2019 Vogue UK shoot told us anonymously, "The moment we mention her name to a brand, there's a pause, then silence, then a redirect. That's code 4. Don't ask again." Fashion Week Paris, scheduled for March 4th to 11th, 2026, released its provisional invite list this week. Meghan's name is absent. No front row seats, no backstage access, no media slots. She is completely invisible. Once a figure who could sit alongside Anna Wintour without question, she is now conspicuously absent. The fall is breathtaking in its finality. Behind the scenes, however, Meghan's team did not remain idle. Her PR agency, SME Strategies, reportedly pitched at least 5 image restoration initiatives to major fashion and lifestyle outlets since February 8th, a reconciliation feature with Harper's Bazaar, a digital cover for InStyle focusing on eco-conscious fashion, a podcast guest spot on creative conversations with Stella McCartney, a proposed photo shoot with Marie Claire UK highlighting healing couture, and a TED Talk concept titled Reclaiming Creative Space as a Woman of Colour. According to one editor at a leading French publication, every pitch was ignored or ghosted. The reasoning, insiders say, is simple: volatility over value. Meghan enters a room and the discussion shifts from luxury to liability. Whereas American outlets tread lightly around the Markle narrative, French fashion media has grown increasingly critical. Le Figaro's headline read, "Le silence de Chanel, plus puissant que les mots." Silence, more powerful than words. Gala magazine ran a feature titled, "De la grâce à la chute, the fall of a duchess in fashion." Even Vanity Fair France, once supportive, published, "Madame Markle confuses disruption with dominance, but couture does not bend to ego. Fashion is not just visibility, it is access. Without that access, even the wealthiest public figures face cultural isolation." One industry veteran summed it up, "Doors open silently, but when they close, they echo." For Meghan Markle, a global fashion disruptor turned cautionary tale, those echoes resonated loudly. When Chanel's velvet doors slammed shut and Paris followed suit, she did not retreat quietly. Insiders report that she immediately turned to legal channels, private PR memos, and indirect pressure campaigns in an effort to reclaim relevance, respect, and leverage. But this time, those tactics failed. On February 8th, 2026, just 24 hours after the Beverly Hills standoff, Meghan's longtime entertainment attorney, Jonathan Wiley, convened a high-level call with representatives from Levin and O'Donnell, LLP, a powerhouse litigation firm based in New York. The objective: explore filing a defamation or discrimination suit against Chanel for reputational harm and lost opportunities. A leaked draft reviewed by our newsroom reveals Meghan's team considered multiple legal claims: tortious interference with commercial prospects, discriminatory exclusion under California's Unruh Civil Rights Act, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and unfair business practice under the Paris Treaty framework. Internally, the case was labelled Project Salvage. However, multiple legal experts, including a former California Superior Court judge, dismissed the draft as emotionally driven, not evidentiary. There is no precedent forcing a fashion house to maintain a private relationship. One analyst noted bluntly, "It's not discrimination, it's discretion." By February 10th, the lawsuit strategy was shelved. Frustrated by legal limitations, Meghan pivoted to her familiar playbook, curated leaks. At 11:17 a.m. Pacific Time on February 9th, an internal email from Archwell Communications Director Nadia Campbell was sent to over 40 media contacts in fashion, lifestyle, and progressive news outlets. Subject line: an ongoing pattern, women of colour in luxury spaces. The email painted a narrative of systemic exclusion and unconscious bias, referencing Meghan's experiences with the British tabloids, the royal transition, and recent corporate hostilities. Never naming Chanel directly, but heavily implying the connection. Outlets included The Cut, Teen Vogue, Refinery 29, Lark, and Birdie. Only one published a sympathetic op-ed. The rest declined. The internal reaction at Archwell was chaotic. A staffer who resigned on February 10th described the atmosphere as a panic spiral. Meghan wanted momentum, The reality was losing control of the narrative. Several leaked WhatsApp messages revealed Meghan demanding her team pitch the humanitarian angle aggressively and leverage the Diana reference if necessary. One read, "Remind them who I am. Remind them what I've survived." But external responses from London to Los Angeles were not aligned. PR analysts noted a shift. Her narrative was backfiring. Instead of sympathy, the leaks were interpreted as deflection. A European brand consultant explained, "This isn't about fashion anymore. It's about control. The public feels it, and so do we. We're PR professionals in New York and Paris, advising clients not to engage with Meghan-affiliated campaigns. She doesn't move product, she moves headlines." Perhaps the most damning blow came not from Meghan herself, but from inside the fashion industry. On the evening of February 10th, a private email written by Bruno Pavlovsky, president of Chanel Fashion Division, was anonymously posted on the restricted industry server Modal X, dated January 28, 2026. It read, "There are moments when silence protects the house more than any response. This is one. We cannot be expected to absorb chaos for the sake of celebrity. The decision regarding MM was strategic, not emotional. Her team will understand this in time." The email, though intended to remain private, spread like wildfire through Parisian and international fashion circles. For many, it crystallized a reality long whispered behind velvet ropes and gilded doors. This wasn't just Meghan Markle falling out of favor. This was an entire industry closing ranks, a near impenetrable wall of tradition, discretion, and institutional authority. In a single week, Meghan had gone from issuing legal threats to watching her credibility erode across the very platforms and social circuits she once commanded with ease. Archwell's media inbox overflowed within hours. Invitations to podcasts vanished. Stylists quietly pulled out of tentative partnerships. Fashion PR teams began adding her name to do not book spreadsheets, coded internally as Tier 1 high risk. Meghan had attempted to weaponize the story, to turn controversy into leverage, but as one senior executive put it bluntly, she forgot one rule in fashion: if you force your way in, you're always dressed for the exit. A week after the Beverly Hills standoff, Meghan was no longer fighting for mere access to fashion. She was fighting for relevance, against a system that measured influence in decades, not Instagram likes. Chanel's global blacklist had set the tone. Legal retaliation, abandonment, and the collective silence of fashion's top houses slammed shut around her. The Duchess now faced something she had never confronted at this scale: institutional isolation, a language of omission and quiet authority even the most skilled PR strategies could not pierce. Insiders at Netflix and Spotify confirm the fallout spread far beyond Rodeo Drive or Parisian runways. Meghan's production company, RQL Productions, had been in early discussions to revive a documentary project centered on reimagining royal legacy through fashion. One executive, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the project as dead in the water. The reason? Perception. No major brand wants to be associated with someone whose influence is perceived as chaotic, performative, or manufactured. A Netflix producer added, "This wasn't just a Chanel problem. It triggered a re-evaluation of her entire public capital." Spotify, too, quietly shelved its involvement indefinitely. Across the board, sources confirm Meghan has begun exploring relocation options outside the United States. Canada, Australia, Switzerland, though publicly framed as searches for educational opportunities for her children, wellness retreats, or proximity to nature. Those closest to her admit the motivation is far deeper and far more desperate. One Montecito neighbour, speaking off the record, described the Sussex household as claustrophobic. "She's lost the social orbit. People don't visit like they used to. Calls go unanswered. Stylists stop returning messages. Invitations to charity events have slowed. It's like the industry decided collectively and calmly that they're done." Public perception mirrors the private reality. In Canada, polling has shifted dramatically since 2020. A Toronto-based PR firm shared a private survey showing favourability among women aged 25 to 45 dropped by 43% in just a month. They feel she talks about empowerment, but moves with entitlement, the analyst noted. There's a gap between the brand she claims and the behavior the public sees. Ironically, while fashion doors slam shut, one royal door remains slightly ajar on Harry's side. Sources within Windsor's extended circle report that Prince Harry has quietly explored institutional re-entry, not as a senior working royal, but via discreet charity engagements or legacy events. However, these discussions carry a strict caveat relayed through Princess Anne and Lady Louise Windsor. Meghan cannot be involved. There is no path back for both of them, a royal aide stated firmly. Harry, by all accounts, is torn. Friends note the Chanel incident rattled him profoundly. He saw firsthand what happens when the world stops pretending. A source close to Harry reflected, "At the heart of this entire saga lies a brutal truth. Meghan Markle's personal brand no longer has buyers. Not in Paris, not in Hollywood, not even in the curated world of influencer partnerships where she once held sway. The fallout has tangible consequences. The RQL Foundation faces donor fatigue. 2 major contributors pulled funding since late January. Meghan's lifestyle brand is trapped in production limbo. Inventory from the failed JAM line, occupying 2 rented storage units in Santa Barbara. 9 consecutive fashion collaboration refusals have forced her team to halt all outreach. For now, Meghan remains in California, surrounded by a shrinking core team and fewer public allies than ever. Media boosters like Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey have remained silent. Former collaborators, including Serena Williams and Tyler Perry, have not publicly offered support. Speculation about her next move varies. Some insiders predict a pivot toward memoir or political advocacy. Others anticipate a quiet retreat from public life, forced not by choice, but by attrition. Luxury insiders say the message has already been etched in marble. At this level, there are no second chances. Once a name is off the list, there is no email, apology, or headline that can reopen doors. On February 10th, a lone image circulated quietly among fashion editors and senior stylists. It depicted the Chanel boutique on Rue Cambon. Its facade, immaculate and calm, gleamed under the Parisian sun. The doors were closed. Behind the glass, a tiny placard read, "By invitation only." That placard was more than a notice. It was a symbol, a declaration. In that silence, Meghan Markle's chapter in high fashion had quietly, irrevocably ended. For the Duchess of Sussex, this moment is emblematic of a broader truth. Influence is fleeting when confronted with collective institutional judgment. Celebrities may dominate headlines, but brands, legacy brands, control access, exposure, and the whispers of power that echo far longer than any social media post. Meghan's struggle is no longer against individual snubs, but against the immovable force of the fashion establishment itself. Doors remain closed, not with anger or spectacle, but with quiet conviction. Each unreturned call, each ignored pitch, each bypassed invitation reinforces the point. Notoriety can only carry you so far. In a world where discretion, loyalty, and historical weight govern access, even global recognition cannot secure permanent entry. The networks that once amplified Meghan now filter her out. Social capital has limits, and at this moment, she has reached them. And yet, the story is not entirely over. For those watching closely, the saga of Meghan Markle and the fashion world serves as a masterclass in the dynamics of power, influence, and the fragility of personal branding against institutional rigidity. It is a cautionary tale, a reminder that in industries built on legacy, doors can swing open silently, but when they close, the echo lasts forever. Like, comment, and subscribe for full coverage of this ongoing high fashion scandal.